Okay. Hello. So if you are watching this and I've actually posted it, kudos to me for getting the courage to do so. My name is Trisha. I am a 30-something-year-old gal living in New York City in Brooklyn. And I started this vlog to document my experience with scoliosis, but specifically with scoliosis surgery. So I am 48 hours away from my fusion surgery that I'll be having here in New York City, and I wanted to really start videoing my experience, not just for me, but for however many people, even if it's one person, that this can help them as they are going through a similar journey as me. I'm hoping that this is helpful. I found that, throughout my journey with dealing with scoliosis, that I've always turned to vlogs and videos, just trying to find other people going through similar stories as me. So I hope that this can help others out there. So to start out, I just want to first go over, my scoliosis story. So, when I was diagnosed, what kind of treatments I've gone through, and how I came to make the big decision to have fusion surgery. I was diagnosed with scoliosis when I was 12 years old. My mom noticed when I was bathing or showering one day that I had a hump on my back. So she took me to the doctor and they said it looks like she might have scoliosis, so let's do some x-rays. So I got my x-rays done, and the x-rays showed that I had an S-shaped curve. So I've got a couple different curves in my spine, and the largest curve at the time was around 30 degrees. At that point, the orthopedic doctor that we talked to had said that I was a little too old for a brace, so they thought I wasn't really going to be growing much more. So they didn't think a brace would be helpful, but I was not quite severe enough for surgery. So my curves weren't large enough to really indicate surgery at the time. So we kind of left the doctor's office, not really with any, forward direction on what to do. I had a couple sessions of physical therapy, which were very helpful. But from that point forward, scoliosis became more of just a kind of physical difference with me rather than something I considered a health condition. At that point, I didn't have any back pain. I just knew that I was a little crooked, and one of my hips swung a little bit higher than the other, and sometimes one of my pant legs was a little bit shorter than the other. Throughout school and college and graduate school, I noticed that I had back pain, but I didn't think that it was any different. I just thought, I'm sitting down all day. The chairs aren't the best in a classroom. It must just be being a student. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago that I knew I was having more and more back pain every day. But I actually had gone to have a massage, and the masseuse was actually saying, wow, your back is your spine is very crooked. You should probably go get that checked out again. And so literally it was a stranger kind of bringing up like this, it's not normal, which I knew it wasn't normal, but that kind of triggered me to think, okay, I should probably go have this taken care of and have it looked at again. So I went to an orthopedist here in New York City, and we did some x-rays, and I saw my curve, and it had progressed from what was around, I believe, 30 degrees to now the largest curve was above 50 degrees. I think the last time we did an x-ray with the surgeon, the largest curve when standing was around 70 degrees. So it had progressed. So at that point came the decision of, okay, we can do some physical therapy to see how that helps. But the orthopedist that I talked to was pretty straightforward with me as far as, I think you're gonna need to have surgery at some point. It's just a question of, when. Because as far as I've heard from the few orthopedists that I've talked to, once your curve is above 50 degrees, especially as you're an adult, it tends to progressively worsen as you continue to age. So then I was, left with this kind of difficult decision of when is the right time? Is this the right decision for me? At that point, I was having a lot more back pain. I currently have much more back pain than I used to. And, it's starting to affect daily activities that a normal 32-year-old shouldn't have issues with. Simple things like putting on my tennis shoes in the morning. I feel like I'm in my 60s, which nothing wrong with being in your 60s, but it's very difficult to, even get on the ground and, pick up something if I drop it. Showering has become more of an issue. I wince when I have to lean back and rinse my hair. And I know if you're watching this and you have scoliosis, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir, but certain things that you don't really recognize that people do daily pain-free when you're living with scoliosis. So the pain is definitely something that's been weighing me down, especially when I know that it's probably going to progressively worsen with time. The other thing too is I have, there's pros and cons as far as fusion surgery on, if it's the right decision for you, and if so, when. One thing that a couple of the doctors I've spoken to had mentioned is the younger you are, the easier it's going to be with recovery. One thing about my curve, and I will try to pop up an x-ray somewhere in this video so you can see it, but my largest curve hits about mid-thoracic to lower lumbar. So I definitely got multiple opinions from different surgeons in New York City, and each one really shared the same idea that my largest part of the curve fixating or situating in my lumbar area, that it will be definitely a lower fusion. And what they explained to me is, they could fuse to the lower, like L4, L5 and not touch the pelvis, but that extra pressure from, moving and living life after a fusion surgery would then be exerted on the areas that are unfused, so whatever's above or below the fusion, and that I would maybe eventually need to have that area fused anyway. So most of the recommendations were saying that they would go ahead and fuse to the pelvis. That was a big thing for me to think about. Initially, I think I went home and just thought, this is not the right decision for me right now. And that was around pre-pandemic. That was February 2020 when I was starting to get those kind of recommendations from doctors. So then the pandemic happens, and I kind of let scoliosis take a back seat as far as decision making goes. And I just noticed in the past year and a half, my pain has gotten worse. I can now feel my right rib cage situating and leaning into my hip. It's uncomfortable. And I just know the pain is, it's getting worse. It's harder for me to sit and stand for long durations of time. And I know it's just going to continue to worsen with time. I really had to think about some big life decisions. Again, I mentioned I'm in my 30s. One thing that's really been helpful with, watching all the wonderful guys and gals out there that have had fusion surgery has been, seeing their stories, but I know I'm kind of an oddball. I know most people with scoliosis that need surgery will tend to have it done in their adolescent, teenage years, or early 20s, which is great for recovery, and they tend to be shorter fusions because they're still growing. Or on the flip side, a lot of people might end up getting fusions later on in their 60s or 70s. So I'm in that kind of middle range, which there tend to be less people in that range. So another reason I really wanted to kind of document this experience, if you are in your 20s, 30s, 40s out there and you're going through something similar, I am with you. And I know it's a difficult decision to make. So something I had to think about is, do I want to have this fusion surgery before I have children? I've always wanted children, and my partner and I know that we want to have a child. So I had to weigh that on, when do I want to do this? I didn't want to feel rushed into that decision. And I also, right now, I cannot see my current body the way it is being a mother. I can't see, going through a pregnancy, carrying a baby, holding a toddler with my back right now. So I know I'm going to have a trade-off of losing quite a bit of flexibility with a fusion to the pelvis, but I know that right now my flexibility is already very limited based on my back pain. So, that also played a role in me deciding that now's the right time to do this. So I made the decision. I want to do it now, and there's no turning back. I'm going to be going in for surgery in 2 days, and I'm at peace with the decision. I'm excited about it. I know it's going to be rough. I know it's going to be painful, but I know that in the long run, that pain is temporary, and I'm hoping that it's just going to open up, more of a pain-free life in the future, where I'm standing tall and I'm not worried about, if my curves are getting worse and the back pain that I already have, if it's going to worsen. The other thing too is I'm not an Olympic swimmer. I'm not a gymnast. I exercise. I go to the gym a couple times a week, but I'm in no way going to be super restrained by the flexibility with fusion to the pelvis. And I've talked to a lot of people as well. If you're in this situation right now and you feel alone in it, I definitely recommend, looking at other people's vlogs, getting onto some, groups on social media, because there are plenty of people out there to help share their story and let you know that they went through the same situation and they're fine. They can even touch their toes. So I'm thinking that I'm letting go of some flexibility, but right now I've already lost flexibility with how my back is. So I'm thinking it'll be a trade-off, but it'll end up being positive in the end. So that's all I've got right now. Hopefully, if everything goes well, I will hopefully be, videoing my experience as I go. That's my cat in the background, Bruce Wayne. They might make some appearances in the future, but if everything goes well, I'm hoping I'll be videoing my experience. I'd like to go through what, has been helpful to me as I've been preparing for the surgery. I've watched a lot of really great YouTubers that have had fusion surgery, like Jamie Gray and Sarah Johnson. And their videos have been so helpful to me. They make me feel like there's other people out there that have been, are in my shoes. So hopefully I can share some of, my recommendations on, how to prepare for the surgery, what things did or didn't work. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm excited. Last thing I wanted to say is, if you are someone with scoliosis, or even not scoliosis, but you're dealing with chronic pain, I'm here. I know how hard it can be. One of the hardest decisions about, deciding that I want to have fusion surgery is that it's not a life-threatening condition. It's not something that needs to be done now, but I really have to weigh, oh my God, you guys stop. All right. What I was saying, this is Bruce Wayne, but what I was saying is I know that making a decision to have scoliosis surgery can be really difficult, because it might not be something that is life-threatening in the sense of like needing to have, heart surgery, but it's your life, and I know it's really hard to live with chronic pain every day, and you have to choose to make the decision of what's going to help you get through each day and be your best self. So it's tough. So hopefully this is helpful to you guys. I wish you all the best, and I will see you post surgery. Bye.